Getting engaged is a moment worth cherishing. A one-of-a-kind ring that you design at Blue Nile can help your love sparkle. Just choose your diamond and setting. When you've found the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Finding the right engagement ring can be nerve-wracking. At Blue Nile, you'll have the expert guidance needed and a diamond guarantee that ensures you're getting the highest quality at the best price. Cherish all of life's moments and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Inspire people to pursue a passion for paddling, for health, enjoyment, friendship, challenge and achievement. That's what British Canoeing states as their purpose. Their vision, a united British Canoeing focused on our people and ambitions, and excellent in delivery. Now, it's clearly an ambitious aim and a wide-ranging remit, and on this episode of Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy, we've come to find out how they do it. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and British Canoeing has 11 stated ambitions as part of their overall strategy. They cover everything from increasing participation in paddle sport to improving pathways to international success. Medals, in other words, at European, World, Olympic and Paralympic level. And we're at the National Water Sports Centre in Nottingham to meet the man at the helm of an organisation that originally dates back to 1936.
I'm David Joy, the Chief Executive of British Canoeing.
So David, first of all, tell us how wide-ranging a remit that you've got, because people will know about Paracanoe, which made their debut in 2016. They'll know about sprint and slalom canoe at the Olympics, been there since the 30s. A lot more goes on in this building, though, isn't there?
Absolutely. The Olympic and Paralympic disciplines are really important to the sport, but 80% of our members don't even compete. So we're definitely a sport, but also a lifestyle, a leisure pursuit, and for thousands and thousands of paddlers, getting out onto the water, onto the lakes, onto the sea, to enjoy that as a recreation is a very important part of what we do, and supporting them to do that is crucial business for us. But in competition-wise, as well as the Olympic and Paralympic disciplines, we've also got 7 or 8 non-Olympic disciplines. Last year, we won just short of 100 medals in European and World Championships across the non-Olympic disciplines: canoe polo, marathon, freestyle, surf, and the list goes on. And those people just as committed as the Olympic and Paralympic athletes to being the best they can be.
How important has it been then for you to introduce what you've called here at British Canoeing your Vision 2020 to encompass all of that?
It's been crucial and fascinating at the same time. So I arrived in 2016, and we began a consultation pretty quickly about what people wanted British Canoeing to be. And one of the top 5 things that came back in the first survey is that British Canoeing can't have a single vision. It can't be a single join-up organisation, because to that point it had never been, and the recreational paddler just didn't connect with the vision of the Olympics, and felt that the governing body was only focused on Olympic and Paralympic sport. So we were sure we wanted to build an organisation that was all-encompassing, and set off on that journey. And the first stage of that really was listening really hard to lots of different groups and individuals. What do people want this organisation to be? And when we did an online survey to begin with in the April, and 6 themes came through loud and clear: competition and coaching and recreation. And we got on the road and through the rest of 2016 talked to a lot more people. And in the end, we couldn't cut it down to more than the 11 ambitions that we've got. And people tell me for an organisation to have 11 ambitions is ridiculous and it should be fewer. But actually, it does demonstrate the breadth of our organisation, and each one of those is still really important. And we're just now looking towards 21-25 strategy, and I don't see it any differently, actually. And the consultation we're getting back from members, they don't see it any differently. That defines the breadth of who we are, and we need to do the whole lot really well.
So you said you did lots of listening, because some groups can be quite vocal, and whitewater rafting, for example, is nothing to do with canoeing or paddling or sprint canoe or slalom. How, as a chief exec, do you manage the kind of vocal side of it and deal with that?
I think the first point, I think, is recognising that everything is important. And again, people might say, well, you can't say everything's important. Otherwise you end up doing nothing. But we're a wide organisation, and so we did listen really hard, and there was a really strong sense that coaching needed to change. So our qualifications and the way that we engage with coaches and help coaches get better, that's a big population for us, 12,000 coaches, and they were largely dissatisfied. So we spoke at depth. What improvements did they want to see? They wanted the qualifications changing. They wanted online learning. They didn't want to pay so much for the courses. They wanted the courses simplified. And that in its little self is a really good example of what we did, because within the 4 years we will have reviewed all of the courses. We will have made them simpler. People can go straight into assessment if they're suitably competent. And up until this point, we've had 46,000 coach engagements with our e-learning platform, which wasn't even in place in 2016. And so for rafting, to come back to the question, it's the same story really. It's an important part of what we do. So what do they want to do? Where do they want to be? How do we help them to get there? And for every little part of our organisation, we've done exactly the same. And right now we're enjoying some fruits of that labour, and satisfaction levels coming really strongly in the positive.
I was going to say, to coin a water phrase, are you in calm waters now, British Canoeing, compared to where you were, rather than the choppy waters?
Certainly calmer. And my inbox compared to what I had in 16 is very different. I think satisfaction levels tell a lot. Actually, we survey a lot, so we've got 11 ambitions. We've got 20 KPIs around those ambitions, and 4 or 5 of those are around satisfaction levels. So member satisfaction level now has gone up to 75% of our members being satisfied or very satisfied with British Canoeing. Our Net Promoter Score has gone from -9 to -4 to +23. Now those things don't come easily. That is because we have listened, and we've changed and started to deliver what people want. So it's a governing body of sport. At the end of the day, we are there to work with our volunteers. Volunteers incredibly passionate about their little bit. So there are still things we're working on, but largely in a good place right now.
Is the brand, the name British Canoeing, a bit of a misnomer because you have such a wider remit? Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I understand entirely. And we rebranded, I think, just before I arrived from British Canoe Uni. Most people still refer to us as BCU, to British Canoeing. And in the last couple of years, lots of our members have suggested it's time to change the name again. I look at Australia, have just gone to Paddle Australia. That probably reflects more what we do as well, that we're a paddle sport. We embrace rafting, we embrace stand-up paddleboarding, as well as canoeing and kayaking. So at some point, we'll do that piece of work properly, but when we do it, we'll want to do it properly, and it's about freeing up the time and the resource to do it properly. And it feels as if it's not critical now, but we'll come back to it for sure in the near future.
One of the things I'm really intrigued about, and I guess the man or woman on the street is intrigued about, is why does a sports governing body need such a detailed strategy? What does it offer you? Why go away and do that piece of work?
Most governing body strategies are not as detailed as Stronger Together. That approach is something that I bring to an organisation, and was really clear at recruitment stage. That's what I would be bringing. And I think the 11 ambitions were as I said before, hard to get away from. Most organisations like ours are going to increase participation, increase membership, develop clubs, develop coaches. We'd also got the strong access agenda, creating a real unequivocal right to paddle on inland waterways, and an environment agenda that other governing bodies don't have. So that's why we ended up with 11, and it would have been really easy to stop at that point. And we're going to do these 11 things, and we're going to put some big numbers, KPIs there. But actually, it's about the how. What are you going to do, and how are you going to bring about this change? And I prefer, and our board prefers, that we say really clearly what we're going to do by 21, and then report progress against it. So if I use the coaching example, let me use another one. Let me use membership as an example. We needed to review our membership categories. We needed to change the platform on which we were building, and we needed to improve the communication to members and the benefits to members. And so we said that's exactly what we're going to do. And we put a date, either 17, 18, 19, 20, when it'll be done. And now we're making really good progress. At this point, with a year to go, with 35 out of our 67 targets completed. And by the time we get to the end of next year, I would expect us to be north of 50 of those. The organisation will be in a very different place as a result. So I don't have any fear at all on behalf of our volunteers and our members and our staff saying we're going to do this and then get on and do it and show that we've done it and feel the benefits as a result.
And that aim is for 75,000 new members by 2021. So what would give you most satisfaction then? Is it hitting that kind of target, or coming back from Tokyo with a heap of Paralympic and Olympic gold medals?
They're equally important. And as I said before, the 11 ambitions are all drivers for parts of our organisation. So being successful in all 11 is really key. The two that you've just given me bring very different things. Membership income is a key part of the sustainability of this organisation. It also shows us, when members want to join us, it shows us that we're doing the right things. So we had 5 years of decline in membership before 2016. From 2016 onwards, we've had annual growth in membership. We're now at 40,000 members. The big jump will come when the 25,000 members of clubs who are still not members of British Canoeing come into membership. And that's hearts and minds, and we're in that process right now. So membership growth shows the health of the organisation. It's critical, but it also brings us revenue that we can then invest back into. So that each and every one's important. Of course, we want to see membership grow, but we equally want to see the athletes being successful, fulfilling their dreams in Tokyo.
We'll come back to Tokyo a bit later on, but I want to talk a little bit about you. You came into British Canoeing without any canoeing background, if you like. Do you think that was actually beneficial?
A little bit of background, in so much as I'd paddled twice in the Scouts. So, and I think I'd done a pool course as a result of that because I liked it. But I was appointed because of my 30 years experience in sports organisations. And when I look across the landscape of CEOs in governing bodies now, more often than not, CEOs are appointed from not within the sport. So I think as a CEO, it's more important that I'm able to manage the process of strategy, manage the process of change, and help the organisation get where it needs to go, rather than having a strong background in paddle sport. There'll be many members who probably think the CEO should have that background in paddle sport, and one day somebody might combine the two. But I don't feel that it's held me back at all. And I think the key is that you properly listen. Whether you're from the sport or not, actually listening is really key. Having empathy around the culture and understanding pretty quickly the culture of an organisation is key. And then it's you're successful based on what you bring. Because
we talked about earlier about vocal groups, and there was quite a lot of comments when you joined about you not having that background. But how did that make you feel?
I would expect that, really. And
do you understand it?
Yeah, 100%. And the former previous chief executive was from the sport and had a background and still involved in the sport. So understand it and would expect it. And my attitude coming in was that if we were able to move in a way that I was pretty sure we would, that over a period of time, and hopefully relatively quickly, people would begin to trust me, the executive team and the board, by what we've done and what we're doing here right now, today, the next day, as opposed to what we might have done prior to coming into the role. And I think we're there. There will be still some people who are uncomfortable. I think largely now we're moving in a very positive direction, and people see British canoeing as better and stronger. And by association, the leadership provided by me and the executive team and the board, I think, is seen as a positive rather than a negative.
Because I know it's not the most scientific of research, but I went away when I knew we were meeting today and put your name into various paddling forums about when you were appointed, and lots of people are going, what's this man from Scottish athletics and England golf, what can he bring to our sport? That's pretty nonsensical, isn't it? Because there's plenty of transferable skills in terms of leadership of an organisation.
Yeah, I did the same before I was appointed and read the same comments. And as I say, I would expect it. But I've been chief executive now of three governing bodies.
And you've taken people with you.
Yeah, I look back on each one with some pride. And the journey's been similar, actually. So Scottish athletics, an absolute transformation, top to bottom. And we did some really positive things in athletics, and it's continued to grow since my time with Scottish athletics, and some fantastic athletes coming out. But again, in terms of legacy, a program called Jog Scotland that didn't exist. We created it to engage the recreational runner. It's now got 20,000 members, which is a lot larger than the Scottish athletics body itself. The same at England Golf. Again, a transformation program. It had never had a strategy before. We were working in a very complex environment. The organisation needed governance change. We created some of that, not as far as I would have liked it to have gone, but definitely. And then the same here, actually. The same challenges we're presenting. So having done that twice in other governing bodies and once more in a county sport partnership, I could very quickly see what needed to be done, and therefore we've been able to move relatively quickly, actually, to bring about the change required.
Let's talk about some of your campaigns, some of your ambitions. One of those is to increase mass participation paddle events, and there's this aim for 3 national paddle events. Do you need, in a way, the paddle equivalent of Ride London or a Great North Run or the Leeds Triathlon? Is that something that you can create here, perhaps? Yeah,
that was a target that we put into the plan, and we've not yet really delivered on, but exactly that. I think most people paddle in small groups, and the bigger events are competitive events. So creating mass paddles is an obvious gap within our sport,
and something that could be on television for 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday afternoon, in the same way that those events I just mentioned are.
Yeah, and in other countries we see that. There's a huge event in Paris. There was an event that we were closely associated with on the Thames last year that was cancelled at the last minute, Regatta London, and so we think those are big opportunities for us to pursue, and early indications are that members and paddlers would love to get involved in big events.
And you'll be pleased to know that we're very aware of a huge campaign, which is Clear Access, Clear Waters, website launched for that. But what actually is it? Tell us a bit about it.
A number of threads to it, but the absolute driver is to bring some clarity to legislation. So 96% of the rivers, inland waterways in England, access to paddle on them is contested. So 4%, which tend to be the bigger rivers, are licensed, and paddlers get licenses through membership. They can paddle on them, rivers like the Trent and the Thames and the Severn. The rest of the waterways, when paddlers go on those waterways, quite often, just being on the water will be contested by other water users or landowners. And we don't think that's right, and we passionately believe that the law needs to be clearer. It's not the case in the rest of Europe, it's not the case in Scotland, it's almost uniquely the case in England and Wales. And at a time when it's never been more important that the public are active, there's never been more people wanting to be active in the outdoors. We think it's completely anomalous that there is a lack of clarity in the law. So we've been working really hard with MPs, with ministers, with the civil servants, and gaining real traction. We launched our charter just over 14, 15 months ago, and we believe that this change in legislation will come. It's for us now to keep working over the next 2 or 3 years to bring it about.
This is Anything But Footy. Great British bosses. We're talking to David Joy, CEO of British Canoeing. We're talking paddling. That's the key word that we need to keep mentioning. Your event strategy is about bringing major events to the UK as well, alongside UK sport. How beneficial is that for an organisation or for your sport and legacy terms?
Hugely. We think that hosting events is an important part of fulfilling our responsibility with the international federations. We're a big international federation. Someone has to host events. We need to take our turn. That is for sure. But we see enormous benefit from the events that we host. So last year we hosted Slalom World Cup at Lee Valley, and we've got the European Championships in May, and then a Freestyle World Cup later this summer, and Freestyle World Championships next year. And just talking about the event that we hosted last year, 220 volunteers gave 4 or 5 days to volunteer on the event, and many of those are coming into the Freestyle World Championships. So people new to volunteering, getting involved in our sport, really helping. The athletes performed phenomenally well at that event, and home advantage and the chance to compete in front of parents and friends and family, and for our members to be able to shout and cheer is again all part of building the community that we're trying to build in British canoeing. It's also really critically from a commercial point of view. And we were able to attract event sponsors for the first time. Our commercial strategy is less developed than I would like to see it, but some fantastic sponsors in Jafra and Red Bull and others that actually are working with us now outside of the events, which is all very encouraging. So we see it as an essential part of who we are and what we do, and we'll continue to do that for the foreseeable future. Just
very quickly on legacy, because I spent my whole 2012 covering the Olympics, and every week it was, well, what's the legacy? What's the legacy? When you look back now at Lee Valley and where we are in Nottingham, and we still have the National Sports Centre here in Nottingham, there is that legacy that people were worried about, isn't there?
Lee Valley's arguably the best example of Olympic legacy anywhere, I would suggest. The centre itself, commercially viable, very diverse sources of income, actually. We are regular users of the site. Our athletes are there all day, every day. The development programs that have gone into schools have produced now junior international athletes, people that weren't even paddling in 2012 now in our junior international teams, Beth Forrow being the best example. And so, absolutely, I think it has to be thought through from the outset. If you're serious about legacy, you need to build it into design, you need to build it into structure, and then it doesn't happen on its own. You need really great management in the centre working with the governing body. But we believe in it passionately, and we'd like to see further developments.
Since we recorded this interview with David, British Canoeing and UK Sport have published the recommendations from an independent investigation set up following serious allegations about a coach.
The report found a culture of fear within the organisation, particularly within sport, but said judged purely on its ability to win medals, British Canoeing was deemed a success. But that came at a heavy price, namely the physical and emotional welfare of many athletes.
UK Sport welcomed the report and says it recognises that British Canoeing has made significant progress. British Canoeing has unreservedly apologised.
I think athlete welfare, we were not in the place we should have been coming out of Rio, and had a good hard look at that through 2016 actually before we went into Rio. And by the end of Rio, by the end of the games in Rio, we're already making changes, and that we want athletes to be successful, but we also need the athlete voice to be heard. And I'm not sure as it was in British Canoeing at that time. So we made some fundamental changes in terms of we created a governance team, we appointed an athlete welfare coach, we created an athlete reps group that we didn't previously have, an athlete wellbeing plan that looked at all the difficult areas around times when it's most difficult for the athletes, selection, deselection, and put an enormous amount around those areas to the point where now I can say that we're in a much better place and a pretty good place, and far from finished. And there are still some things that aren't as I would quite like them, but we are hearing of them and dealing with them on a daily basis now, which is the best place we can be.
So let's talk about Tokyo it's looming, isn't it? It's getting much, much closer. You have named some of your team already. There might be further names to go in there. Liam Heath has an opportunity to make history. Mallory Franklin, Kimberly Woods, Adam Burgess and Bradley Forbes Cryans. And some people might be surprised with the naming of Bradley because he's there ahead of Joe Clark. That just goes to show that it's very difficult to qualify in your sport for the Olympics because a reigning Olympic champion like Joe, you can only send the one paddler.
Selection for slalom team was so incredibly tough, and only one athlete per event, 4 disciplines, one athlete per event, and only one can go. In each of those 4 disciplines, we had at least 2 and sometimes 3 athletes who could have been on Olympic podiums. So 4 athletes selected for the Games, all of them have pedigree, and all of them with the potential to get on the podium in our slalom events, and we really hope that each and every one of them then does. In sprint, we're still qualifying athletes. Liam's qualified his quota place and his slot. He's current Olympic champion, unbeaten actually since the Games in his K1 200, and in good shape going into this season with, as I say, with some qualification events in May for the rest of the team. In para-canoe, we've qualified 7 places out of 9. We're pretty sure we'll qualify the remaining 2 in early summer, and that team still has to be selected. But again, when it is selected, I'm sure it'll be very strong.
And you've got stated medal targets, 3 Olympic, 3 Paralympic. You've said you want to be a top 3 nation consistently. Topped the medal table when para-canoe made a debut in Rio. And the trajectory at the Olympics, 1 medal in 92, then across the board in 96, it was a bit of a washout. And then Games, each edition, subsequently, you've improved that medal total as well. So, if anything, 3 doesn't sound as ambitious as maybe it should.
Three's a good number. And the rest of the world's getting really strong. And if we looked at the World Sprint Championships, for example, last year in Hungary, more than 100 nations, not for the first time, but first time for a number of years, more than 100 nations competing, and more nations winning medals than ever before. So there's the big powerhouses in sprint of Hungary and Germany, but actually lots of nations now with really focused programs, creating some success. So we're in a very competitive sport, and we need to keep doing what we're doing really well, helping the athletes be the best they can be, and we're hopeful that we will come back with medals.
Just a final one really on the Olympic programme. We talked there about slalom and sprint, but you mentioned freestyle earlier. Could you see the time in the same way that, in ski and snowboard, we've got freestyle events now. In BMX, freestyle will be making a debut in Tokyo. With this IOC drive to be more youthful, more relevant, could something like freestyle canoeing come into the programme?
I think never say never. And at the moment it looks as if the picture looks fairly stable around sprint and slalom through to Paris and potentially into LA. But canoe polo is a really interesting discipline as well, as a team sport, and freestyle very visually attractive, and we are cognizant of direction of travel with IOC. So there's no real signs that that's where the ICF wants to go at the moment, the International Federation. But we're working really hard to develop those disciplines, and we'll continue to do so.
And is there potential as well for mixed gender kind of events as well, which again is something that the Olympics are really keen on?
It's coming quickly, isn't it, in other sports, and it's been trialled in some of the national championships and international events. So probably more probable than changes to the actual sports within the games. I'd be surprised if we didn't see some mixed events in Paris or LA.
So no Olympic whitewater rafting anytime soon. We're both a bit disappointed about that, aren't we?
I think we could all have a go at that.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, though, isn't it? Because, who makes those decisions? Where does the lead come, if you like, for changing sport disciplines, or how? Does that come from the ICF, or does that come from the IOC?
I think it's a bit of a mix, and I'm not right in the middle of that space. So the politics of how that actually works is other people will be better placed. I think the ICF, our international body, has a responsibility to keep looking to the future, and so we're a constant advocate within those international circles of looking what's right for our sport moving forward, and ensuring that we keep building something that will capture imagination. So I'd be disappointed if the ICF wasn't properly looking at the insight, analysing how successful other ventures have been in other sports, understanding what its member organisations are thinking. And then if it wishes to change programme, having early conversation with IOC. We know that IOC also wants to continue to see modernisation, so I suspect it'll be somewhere between the two that will get this right in the future.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck in Tokyo at both the Olympics and the Paralympics. David Joy, CEO of British Canoeing, thank you so much for talking to us.
It's been my pleasure, thank you.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.